The screams echoed across the smoky longhouse as the red-hot iron pressed into flesh. But this wasn't a warrior's ritual marking or a religious ceremony. This was something far more sinister, far more dehumanizing. In the flickering firelight of 9th century Scandinavia, a human being was being branded like livestock, marked forever as property of their Viking master. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about Viking society and reveal the darkest chapter in Norse history that historians have only recently begun to uncover. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, you're in for a journey through history's most shocking secrets. Before we dive into this harrowing tale, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what we're about to explore today will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the Vikings. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why this story has been buried for over 1,000 years. Picture this. It's the year 847 AD. A Viking raiding party returns to their settlement after a successful raid on the Irish coast. Their longships are heavy with silver, weapons, and most profitable of all, human cargo. Men, women, and children, who just days ago were free people living their lives, now bound in iron chains, about to face a fate worse than death itself. The Vikings called them thralls, derived from the Old Norse word meaning to run or to serve. But these weren't just servants or laborers. They were human property, stripped of every right, every dignity, every trace of their former identity. And the Vikings had developed a sophisticated, brutal system to ensure these people could never forget their status, never escape their fate, and never be mistaken for anything other than what they now were: slaves. The branding iron was just the beginning. As archaeological evidence has revealed in recent decades, the Vikings employed a complex system of physical markings that would make their enslaved people instantly recognizable to anyone who saw them. The brand itself, applied with a searing hot iron, was typically placed on the forehead, cheek, or shoulder. Each Viking chieftain had their own unique symbol, burned into the flesh of their human property like a rancher marking cattle. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. Recent analysis of skeletal remains from Viking-age burial sites has revealed evidence of deliberate bone modifications on individuals believed to be thralls. These weren't accidental injuries from hard labor. These were intentional alterations, designed to permanently mark someone as enslaved. Archaeologists have found evidence of filed teeth, deliberately broken and reset bones that healed in distinctive patterns, and even surgical modifications to facial features. Dr. Elena Björnsson, a forensic archaeologist from the University of Uppsala, made a chilling discovery in 2019 when examining remains from a 10th century Norse settlement. She found evidence of what she termed ownership scarification, deliberate cuts made in specific patterns across the bodies of thralls, creating raised scars that served as permanent identification marks. These weren't random wounds, they were carefully planned, methodically executed systems of human branding that went far beyond simple ownership marking. The clothing restrictions imposed on thralls were equally dehumanizing. While free Vikings wore brightly colored woolen garments, fine jewelry, and elaborate brooches, thralls were forbidden from wearing anything that might suggest status or wealth. They were relegated to rough, undyed cloth, typically brown or gray, that immediately marked them as property. No metal jewelry, no decorative elements, no shoes unless absolutely necessary for work. But perhaps most insidious was the hair. Free Viking men and women took great pride in their elaborate hairstyles, often adorned with beads, braids, and intricate patterns. Thralls had their heads shaved or their hair cut in distinctive, humiliating patterns that served as instant identification. Some archaeological evidence suggests that thralls were forced to wear their hair in styles that mimicked animals, further stripping away their humanity. The psychological torture didn't end with physical markings. Vikings developed naming systems designed to erase their thralls' former identities completely. Captured warriors who once bore proud names honoring their ancestors were renamed with degrading titles that reflected their new status. Muckrake, Dung Spreader, and Beast Carrier were common thrall names, designed not just to humiliate but to psychologically break any connection to their former lives. Archaeological excavations at Birka, one of Sweden's most important Viking trading centers, have revealed evidence of what researchers call identification workshops, specialized areas where the marking and modification of newly captured thralls took place. These weren't crude, improvised procedures. They were systematic, organized operations that suggest a level of planning and methodology that's truly horrifying. The iron collars discovered at these sites tell their own story. Unlike simple chains or ropes, these were carefully crafted metal bands, often inscribed with runic symbols identifying the owner. But here's what makes your blood run cold. Many of these collars were designed to grow tighter over time, causing constant discomfort and serving as a permanent reminder of bondage. Some even had small bells attached, ensuring that a thrall's movement could always be heard and tracked. The most disturbing evidence comes from grave sites, where thralls were buried alongside their masters. These weren't honored burials. Archaeological analysis reveals that many thralls were buried alive, sacrificed to serve their owners in the afterlife. But before this final horror, their bodies show evidence of the identification systems we've been discussing, preserved in bone and tissue for over a millennium. Recent DNA analysis has revealed something even more shocking. Many thralls weren't just captured in raids. They were born into slavery, children of enslaved parents who inherited not just their bondage, but their markings. Evidence suggests that slave-born children received their identification marks in infancy, ensuring they would never know freedom or even remember a time before their enslavement. The trading aspects of this system reveal its true scope. Viking merchants developed a sophisticated classification system for their human cargo, with different markings indicating age, health, skills, and breeding potential. Yes, breeding potential. Like livestock, thralls were evaluated and marked based on their ability to produce more slaves. Women bore special markings indicating their fertility status, while men were classified by their physical strength and potential longevity. The most chilling discovery came from excavations in Norway's Lofoten Islands, where archaeologists uncovered what they initially thought was a blacksmith's workshop. But closer examination revealed something far more sinister. This was a thrall modification center, complete with specialized tools for branding, scarification, and surgical alteration of slaves. The precision of these instruments suggests that there were specialists, craftsmen who perfected the art of marking human property. But here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. Not all Vikings accepted this system. Recent archaeological evidence has revealed signs of resistance, both from thralls themselves and from some free Vikings who opposed the practice. Hidden grave sites contain thralls buried without their identification markings, suggesting that some Vikings helped remove or obscure these marks before death, perhaps in acts of compassion or rebellion against the system. The economic importance of this identification system cannot be overstated. Thralls weren't just laborers. They were one of the Vikings' most valuable trade commodities. The Byzantine Empire, the Islamic Caliphates, and other European kingdoms all participated in this trade, and the identification systems ensured quality control and prevented fraud in these international markets. The psychological impact on entire communities was devastating. Imagine living in a coastal village, knowing that at any moment, dragon-proud ships might appear on the horizon, and that capture meant not just slavery, but permanent, irreversible marking that would strip away every trace of your former identity. The fear alone reshaped the entire social fabric of medieval Europe. As Christianity began to influence Viking society in the later period, some of these practices began to change, but not necessarily for humanitarian reasons. Christian Vikings developed new justifications for slavery, incorporating biblical references while maintaining the same brutal identification systems. The markings simply evolved to include Christian symbols alongside traditional Norse designs. The end of the Viking Age didn't mean the end of these practices. The systems they developed influenced slavery practices across medieval Europe and beyond. The legal frameworks, the identification methods, and the psychological techniques pioneered by Viking slavers became templates that would echo through history for centuries to come. Modern DNA analysis has revealed that millions of people across Europe, Russia, and even North America carry genetic markers suggesting thrall ancestry. These are the descendants of people who survived this brutal system, who somehow endured the markings, the psychological torture, and the complete erasure of their former identities. The story of Viking slave branding and identification is more than just historical curiosity. It reveals the capacity for systematic dehumanization that exists within human society, and the technologies of oppression that can develop when human beings are treated as property. The sophisticated nature of these systems, their widespread adoption, and their lasting influence remind us that the darkest chapters of human history are often the most methodically planned and executed. What does this tell us about power, about human nature, and about the thin line between civilization and barbarism? How did entire societies not just accept but perfect these systems of human degradation? And perhaps most importantly, What echoes of these ancient practices can we still see in our modern world? The archaeological record continues to reveal new horrors, new evidence of the systematic nature of Viking slavery and identification. Each excavation brings to light more tools, more evidence, more proof of a system that was far more extensive and sophisticated than we ever imagined. But our investigation into history's darkest secrets doesn't end here. There's still so much more to uncover about the hidden horrors of the past. What other systematic brutalities lie buried in archaeological sites around the world? What other technologies of oppression have been perfected and forgotten, only to be rediscovered by modern excavation? If this video has opened your eyes to the hidden realities of Viking society, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more shocking revelations from history's buried past. Comment below with your thoughts on these discoveries, and let me know what other dark chapters of history you want us to investigate. The notification bell will ensure you never miss our journey into the depths of human history's most disturbing secrets. Next week, we'll be exploring another shocking archaeological discovery that's rewriting everything we thought we knew about medieval punishment systems. Trust me, you won't want to miss what researchers have uncovered in the dungeons beneath European castles. Until then, remember that history's greatest lessons often come from its darkest chapters, and sometimes the most important stories are the ones that make us most uncomfortable to hear.